Yeah, good morning. Happy Wednesday, PSW staff, clients. Yeah, we have friends joining us, so welcome. Yesterday was good. We looked at Philip Glass, revisited him, and today I just want to share some pieces, some of that he's written, some film scoring stuff that he's done, and some Baroque, because I didn't forget about that. And we looked at Nadia Boulanger's influence on Philip Glass and other composers, and I'll revisit that class too. So, a lot of minimalism came from drones. Now, people like drone music, that's fine. Sustained, and we've talked about sustained drones with Brian Eno and stuff. And Terry Riley was so it's weird because when you think of a drone just sustaining, it's not moving, right? So somehow Terry Riley, Philip Glass, they took composers that had done drone music and they gave it motion, because really minimalism is the opposite of drones, right? But somehow, so if you just have a sustained note and then you start moving it back and forth, maybe that's repetition, repetitive music. That's how it started with, and as we've talked about, it's changing all the time, even though it sounds repetitive. The only thing is that usually there's always motion going on, and this goes back to the Baroque, right? I mean, if we just look at Bach's Prelude and Fugue, this sounds like a very modern piece that Philip Glass could have written. So let's take a look at Bach. So Philip Glass is going to look at this, perhaps, we don't know if he did, and then he's probably just going to take a few bars of this, and for lack of a better sense, and just repeat these two bars. He's not doing that, but listen to this piece and see if you can hear and see any similarities. There's repetitive motion, right? Both composers are doing that. Bach's doing this repetitive motion. He's of course going off, and some people would say, well, because Bach's a genius, he's moving on. Some people would say, well, Philip Glass is a genius because he's making a whole piece out of just something very small, little, that builds, develops. It's all about taste. We talked about that Mozart class a few weeks ago. This isn't better. This is just a different approach. But it's cool. I've always thought of Philip Glass and Baroque music being very similar because of the motion involved and the theatricality. There's a lot of theatricality with Baroque music, right? And we looked at Vivaldi and Monteverdi. All that stuff was really cool because it was the opera, film. This stuff is all like in the theater, in the stage. So there's excitement. And there's excitement with Bach and excitement with Philip Glass because of the motion being used. And because of that excitement, Philip Glass did get into film music. Probably the biggest thing was Koyaanisqatsi. Koyaanisqatsi was made in 1982. Godfrey Riggio is a director. And this was really revolutionary. People talk about this movie, but today we see music videos, we see time lapse, we see these things all the time. Most of this comes from Koyaanisqatsi. This was, and that's a Hopi word for life out of balance. That's what that means. Disturbing film. I gave it to a girl in high school and she still hasn't forgiven me for that because it ruined her weekend. But I thought it was really terrific because, visually amazing, and the visuals and music go together so well. This is an experimental movie. But this was really ahead of its time because, we look at all these images and take them for granted because we can do these on our phones now. Back then, they needed to fly, they needed to use helicopters, they needed to go all across the world to film these beautiful images. And the music works so well with these images. That looks really cool to us today, but in the 80s it must have been mind-blowing. It's existential, right? It makes you think about the world and life and all these things that, and one of his collaborators, Errol Morris, great documentarian, said Philip Glass's music is existential dread. So if we think of if that's how he described his music, existential dread, what could that look like? Well, like I talked about yesterday, his film scores, at least it started in 1988 with Thin Blue Line. This was really, just listen to this score and tell me that this isn't the template that could be for all psychological thrillers.
Finally, they bring in a stenographer. She sits down and I run the story. I tell them what happened this Saturday. She leaves, she types.
That suspense and psychological dread and existential dread, that music, to me, that seems just as, if you were to take that score and put it to a psychological thriller drama movie today, it would totally work. But the repetitive motion of this creates suspense, and that has created a template for film scores, I feel like. And we've gotten to the point where with streaming shows that have been really great, we've lost an original melodic music in some of these things because they're fast-paced kind of serial stories that need tension. So that's okay. We need tension with movies, but sometimes the music becomes a slave to the show, the narrative. But I do think a lot of that music has to go back to Philip Glass's influence, whether he liked it or not. But I think he did like it because he used it so well in The Hours. And The Hours is a movie we're going to look at on Monday, because that really solidified him as a really important film composer and not just an avant-garde artist, you know, from the 70s and 80s who was still doing the same thing. He reinvented himself a lot using minimalist techniques of repetitive motion, but making it melodic enough and important enough to be really effective for dramatic content like a film like The Hours, which we're going to take a look at, and then we're going to have an assignment based on, I'll get into that, but have a lot of exciting stuff planned for you guys. So this was a little bit of Philip Glass, a little taste of the advanced Philip Glass, Baroque influence, and his compositions with film that have really influenced a lot of film composers. Definitely me. I mean, I go back to that formula that Glass created because it works really, really well. So hope you enjoyed that. Tomorrow's going to be something else. So have a great rest of the day and see you tomorrow. Bye.